I ain't drinking. Take one.
All right, we're back, or part 2, maybe.
We're back.
We're back.
We are pubcasting with wisdom.
So, Dan, you are, I call you Dan the journalist. You are a sports journalist mostly. I've got a good friend of mine who I'm trying to get on the podcast. I really want to hear his story, and I'll probably have you as a co-host when he comes on, because what he is doing is what I refer to as a road less traveled when it comes to sports. He is an official for football.
Okay.
And he started with high school, and he's worked his way up into college ranks, and he's working his way up the ranks in college. So officiating sports. And there was an incident in relatively recent news with a Red Wings game, because I'm a hockey player. I don't care for much for any other sport, but I love hockey. But it was a Red Wings game, pro hockey, pro level, pro. Let me give it a little FaceTime for this beautiful beer here. The instant happened. It was so obvious. You never, ever, ever throw your stick, especially to block a pass. And opposing player, Red Wings had an amazing scoring opportunity. Opposing player tripped, and you can see him launch his stick, and his stick actually blocks the pass as it's coming through, and he missed the shot as a result. No call on the ice. Officials missed it. I saw a podcast. I want to say it was Locked On Sports, Locked On Red Wings, and he was saying that at that moment he was so mad that he wanted the interviewers, broadcasters, interviewers, whomever, to interview that referee, get him on the camera, find out, why they missed it, and explain, because it did cause a turnover in the game, a momentum change, and I think instead of the Red Wings scoring and winning, they tied, went to overtime, and lost. So it was a tide turner of the game. So when officials miss something, who holds them accountable, and who? And is there anything that you've seen in sports that? Hey, does anyone interview the referees? Does anyone talk to the officials?
Media doesn't have access to officials on record.
Is they not supposed to? Is there a reason?
Yeah, I've never I know I have friends that were or have been game officials at different levels of sports, but you don't walk up to them after a game when you interview coaches or athletes and stick a microphone in a referee. They're not going to talk to you, and that's just the way it always has been. But referees are graded. It doesn't matter if it's hockey, football, soccer, volleyball, whatever. They are graded. But the problem is there's some really, really good officials out there. High school, college, pro, club, whatever level. But there's some out there that simply aren't very good. But, they're not always held to the standard, because it'll get bad reviews, but then the next week they're back out there doing it again, because there's such a short of. Now, it is a human thing. There's a human element. Do referees miss calls in sports? Absolutely. Do referees sometimes get a little bit too emotional and start calling things a certain way? Or they let their anger get the best of them, they get into it with coaches and fans? I've witnessed some bizarre things with, at basketball and soccer games over the years, where I once saw a soccer ref run up into the stands and say, the game's not going to continue till this dad's, thrown out of here. And I've seen it. I've seen this over many years. I've seen some bizarre things. There was a soccer referee killed, sucker punched less than 10 years ago, suburban Detroit. It was a men's rec league. This wasn't like at a pro or college or high school game. This was at an evening rec league. And a lot of people don't want to do it. Some places pay well for officiating, but I think that sometimes the
Wait, back up. Did you say sucker punched and killed, or just sucker punched?
No, the guy ended up dying. You can research that soccer referee in Livonia, Michigan. It was about a decade ago.
Oh, wow.
It made national news, and it's a sad thing.
I mean, I've wanted to kill some referees before in beer league hockey, but I refrained.
I mean, a lot of those guys are like...
It wasn't me. I
A
played
lot of those
hockey.
guys, I mean, a lot of referees, you go to a high school football game or volleyball match or whatever, well, these people are just making extra money.
Yeah.
There's a desire.
They don't get paid much.
Some people like officiating, and there is a need for officiating of sports. But the bombardment of call it both ways, ref, you know, and the stuff about come on blue or come on zebra, you know, all the choice words out there. And sometimes I've talked to some refs, they'll just finish out a season and then that's it, they're done. They don't want to do it anymore because the verbal abuse is so out of control.
Yeah, I would say the number one quality that a referee needs to have is thick skin.
Yes.
In order to deal with fans, in order to deal with athletes and coaches.
Yeah. I mean,
people put so much into their sports, and in the end, I've learned, it's taken me many years and some wisdom there to not take it personal and understand that they're human beings too. I've even gotten so cordial to the point where I'll thank referees after a game, but never used to be that way. And I was very hot-headed. I was very super competitive, and you would swear sometimes these referees had it out for you and your team or whatever, and penalty by reputation, that kind of thing. But from what I learned from my good friend, and like I said, I want to get him on here, and I want to have him kind of tell his side of the story. Well, one of the things I thought was kind of almost sad, because we do rely a lot on social media now. We do communicate a lot through social media. He's had to abandon it all. So he's had to become a social media ghost because he's trying to elevate himself and he's trying to work his way up the ranks. And he can't have friends or anybody that knows him pinging him and commenting and say, hey, what'd you think about this call in this game, blah, blah, blah. Or I mean, growing up in Michigan, I will say Lions fans, they are fans, right? But because you kind of have to be supporting a losing team. But now it's a little different. Anyway, but throughout the years, Lions fans are very, very loyal fans. But you can't have a favorite if you're a referee. And whether it's college or pro or whatever, you kind of have to be neutral. And what he said, and I recall him a very long time ago, very before he even did this, so I just want to see a good game. Because I think maybe it's an advantage coming from the early days of being a Lions fan or living in Detroit. Not everyone was Lions fans. A lot of people had the Lions, and then they had a secondary team that they followed to watch a winning team.
By mid-season, Lions were so bad in so many years, they had to have another team to root for.
People were stressing out.
You know, I remember once in the early 2000s, a soccer coach said something to me, and I don't remember the exact word for word, but he talked about his team got knocked out of the state tournament, and I was at the game. There was 2 or 3 really questionable calls, and ended up costing them the game. And I understand his anger and frustration because they were. I mean, again, it's a human element. There are going to be some calls missed or bad calls, so to speak. But he made a comment about people that attend games pay money to watch the athletes compete. They're not there to watch the referees make calls. But on the other side of it, officiating is part of sports. Whether you are a center ref in a soccer game or a line judge in football, or you're at the scorer's table for gymnastics or competitive cheer, it doesn't matter what sport, they're there. And there are some things that are subjective, and again, there are some very good referees out there and there are some not so good referees out there, but there is a shortage. And then you mentioned something that happened in an NHL game. Usually those type of things don't happen, but they still do. Even at the professional level sports, where you'll watch a game, whatever sport of your choice, and sit there and shake your head saying, what just happened? I mean, that was blatantly missed. And does it have a direct result on an outcome? Sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, a team can end up tying or losing a game based on one simple bad call that changed the momentum, the complexion of the game.
Yep. Yeah, momentum shifts are a really big thing in sports too, where you as a team, things are just going your way a certain way, and something happens and trips you up. I mean, just like running a marathon, man. You're running, you got a rhythm, you're going, and something trips you up. and just throws you out of rhythm. Sometimes it gets into your head, and you can't get back into the rhythm so easily.
Yeah, and some sports more than others, the momentum switches can happen quickly.
Yeah.
Like if you follow volleyball, watch a high school or college volleyball game on television, one simple play can have a huge impact immediately on momentum swings. 'Cause you ride momentum in that sport almost more than any other. I mean,
Spent many summers playing just recreational beach volleyball. I had a sand court near my house, and my buddies and I we could park our cars around there. We could have our radios playing. Which, again, back in the day, we all hung out outside, right?
right? Yeah, you go back to that. But, a simple little play like in volleyball, the ball clearly hit inside the line in the corner, or in tennis, where the line judge will say the ball was out, but it was clearly in. A lot of things can happen after that. You get rattled, the momentum switches to the other team, and that can have a huge impact on one or two little calls can have a major impact in sports. So, yeah, it is sad that happened to the Red Wings recently. I mean, if you are a fan of NHL hockey and you have a team of your choice, over the years you're going to have a game or two or three or whatever where a couple of calls happen, and years down the road you'll still talk about. You remember that game back in 1997? Well,
yeah, they stand out that much in the fans' heads, right?
Right. Yeah,
it was just
the Detroit Lions are a prime example of games that just bizarre calls that end up costing them games and sometimes a playoff spot. I mean, they have a long list, more than most franchises, of bad luck. And sometimes that's what it is. It boils down to bad luck. But there are sometimes you could be the benefactor of a bad call where something is called against the other team and they're given a red card in soccer, or 5-minute major and thrown in the penalty box in hockey, and things happen. Things happen right after that.
It seems rare when you play the game that a call happens in your favor, but I've gotten more attuned to noticing that, and a penalty gets called on the other team, and it was maybe a weak call, but we got away with one. Let's capitalize on this.
Yeah.
It's like, but then there's like, hockey's very fast, very very dynamic, and a lot of it has to do with the angle of which a referee sees something. It's like, from this angle it looks like there was an infraction from this side, but from that angle it looks the opposite.
Right.
So it could go either way, and then of course players on the ice always have their opinion, and anyway, but that's it's an interesting subject to look at it from a referee's perspective. And people have asked me, it's like, you love the game so much, why don't you do some refereeing? Like, no. I have thick skin to a degree, but then it's like, after a while, I'm not going to.
To be an official, hockey and soccer are great examples. Where you're constantly moving, like you're skating all over the ice.
Oh yeah.
Soccer, if you're a center ref, you're running up and down like an athlete. You have to be in good shape.
Well, even football, they're running up and down the sidelines.
I mean, it's one thing if you're the line judge, you're sitting up in the tower of a volleyball match with a whistle in your mouth, and you're calling, balls out or infraction off a set or whatever.
Have you seen those pros run? Their freaking quads are huge. They look like thoroughbred horses. My goodness.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to keep up with them.
Imagine being a center ref at a World Cup soccer match and it goes to double overtime.
Yeah, you got to be.
And it's 110 degrees out. You have to be in amazing shape. I mean, I sometimes have a hard time calling. This has nothing to do with officiating, but like auto racing. But someone once told me that the thing about that is you're in this compacted car and you're drinking water out of a hose because it's so hot in those vehicles when you're driving 500 miles around a loop for a couple hours. So that's a different ball of wax. It has nothing to do with officiating, but there's certain things where you have to be in really good shape for. I mean, do you have to be in great shape to officiate a Wimbledon? You have to have pretty good eyesight to be able to watch that 131 mile an hour serve and make sure it's in or out.
Yeah, your eyesight's got to be sharp, and your mental focus has to be there too. You can't be like, "Ooh, look, a bird!" You can't be doing that. So
you can have a HTT and be a line judge in tennis or volleyball. That's for sure.
People are like, "Was it in or out?" Oh, it's over here. No. And that's another thing. My buddy talks about. After every game, they have meetings and they review all the calls and stuff. And sometimes they go over tapes and stuff. And like I said, I'll try to get him in here sometime, hopefully soon. He thinks he'll have more time when football season ends, but there's still a possibility I can catch him.
Is he doing high school or college right now?
I think he does both. I think he's doing more college. I think he's working his way up the ranks there, which is it's pretty amazing. I mean, I think the ultimate goal is, like you said, to try to get pro. There are some hurdles to get over there, and the other thing is there's people that are established with those jobs, and there's only so many jobs. But so when an opening opens up, then someone can shuffle in there, and a lot of that's timing. But I'll let him explain more of that. It's fascinating because who does that? No, I mean, how often do people do that? I mean, I did once upon a time work with a guy who officiated, beer league hockey, and even I think he did some collegiate hockey and stuff. And as time wears on, he's gotten older, and he's like, I'll just come down and just do these other leagues and stuff. But he had 2 young sons that were growing up, and they made it so far up in the ranks, and then it's like, hey, why don't you just try officiating? And once again, that was to me a long time ago, and realizations like he's actually raising his kids to be officials. It's like, that's kind of cool. It's a different road, and they might have an easier path to getting to a pro level that way. Obviously you're still athletic, like you're saying, and you have to be able to keep up with those guys. You have to be sharp,
you have to
focused.
Yeah, be focused. I mean, you're not, if I'm like behind the plate in Major League Baseball or a College World Series for softball, the concentration of focus of calling balls and strikes and plays in the field, it's incredible how much focus you have to have. And those people get criticized a lot too,
Oh, sure.
I mean, just like in basketball, when it seems like the other team is following every play, it's called both ways, and and referees, they can lose control of a game.
Oh yeah,
pretty quick. I've witnessed a few things here in the last year, different sports, where I'm like, off record and away from the camera, like, this game was poorly officiated. But it is what it is. But yeah, the focus level.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you think about this, say you're doing a 9-inning baseball game, you're behind the plate, you got all that gear on, it's 100 degrees out, it's hot, and there's no one else making the calls. You are. I think of every pitch, that ball's coming at you 98 miles an hour, a slider, and it's curveball, whatever.
Yeah, that is fast, and it's coming pretty much straight at you. I think about the first Naked Gun movie when Frank Drebin. He kind of replaces the umpire, and that first pitch comes out, and it's like, boop. And everyone's looking, and even the catcher looks up at him, and he's just sitting there like, strike. And then the crowd goes nuts. He's like,
next thing you know, he's like dancing and doing the moonwalk.
The ball doesn't even hit the catcher's glove, and he's like, strike.
Yeah, they had Reggie Jackson.
Yeah,
went underneath one of the bases to get a gun to kill the queen or something.
I must kill the queen. So yeah, oh man,
to throw a little humor involved with sports.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to do, maybe to switch gears a little bit, I've always wanted to do some sort of low grassroots level, kind of like what we do with the podcast here, but do it with beer league. So on my channel, I've had some helmet cam stuff and some of the beer league games I've played, and people like that. I've had people ask me, "Hey man, you gonna do some more games?" I'm like, "Cause I like watching." Like, nah, okay, I'll get it back out.
You don't delete any of the language either, do you?
Oh no, that's all part of it. Honestly, with beer league hockey, the funniest stuff happens either in the locker room and or on the bench, and it's just the jawing people do with each other. And
oh yeah, I played rec soccer, indoor and outdoor I'm retired now. My knees are shot, but some of the stuff that was said on the playing surface and on the sideline, if you're subbed out, or even in the bar after a game, some of the language and things that we talk about, it's pretty funny.
It's quite hilarious. We've done tournaments, USA Beer League hockey tournaments. Beautiful thing, because First things first, Labatt's, a Canadian beer, sponsors USA Hockey. Okay, fine. At the tournament, you guaranteed 3 games. They give the team 2 cases of beer before you start the game. So you take those 2 cases of beer in your locker room. What could go wrong, right? So, if you lose a game in your first 3, you're not going to get to the playoffs and you're not going to finish out. So, if you lose a game, then you're going to drink before the game instead of drinking after. So at one point, I think our 3rd game, we had lost at least one. Our 3rd game, we had like friends coming with us because this one was downtown Indianapolis, and it's like the rink's downtown, so the hotel's across the parking lot. You basically finish your game, you drink your beer, you're all downtown. You never see your car all weekend long. It's a drunk fest with 30 hockey teams in the area.
Is this when you were living in Central Indiana? No?
We did that tournament before I even moved away. So, and then I did it when I lived in North Carolina. Anyway, but it was one of the best tournaments to go to because of that purpose. You were always downtown. No one had to drive. The last game we had one of the guys came on the bench as our coach, dressed as a pimp, and he had a Playboy in a like a leather bound binder, and he would we were all drunk joking around, and at one point the ref kind of skates over by the bench and says, "Hey ref, you want to see our playbook?" And he flips open the centerfold.
Well, that's classic.
But when you get the refs laughing and roaring with you, it is so awesome. And there was another tournament where we turned it into a beer league drinking game where once again we lost one of the games, so we weren't going to go in the finals. So the last game, I think we had 2 guys that didn't even bother to suit up for the game. They're like, "Fuck it, I'm just going to sit here and drink." I'm like, I'm playing. So, but we made it a beer drinking game out of hockey. So we made these things like, well, if you got a penalty, you had to sit in the box and slam a beer. If they scored on us while you're still in the box, you got to slam another beer. Oh. If someone scored a goal, he'd get to swing by the bench and pick someone to drink a full beer before they got to play again. If the goalie makes an amazing save, he swings by
a fraternity.
The goalie makes an amazing save. He swings by the bench, picks someone to drink. So this just kept going on and on. And actually, the bench actually had some boards that were open. They didn't have the glass. And the 2 guys that weren't drinking, they're filling up beers and cups, and they're putting it all down the bench. We're offering them to the referees. Second period hockey, you switch sides. We talked the referees and the other team into saying, "Hey, we got all our beer in the side. Can we just not switch sides?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, okay." But we had everybody going, and it was just so much fun. God, I remember I took a penalty late in the game, and I had to slam a beer. And then right before the penalty was over, they scored on us. I had to slam another beer, and then I had to finish the last 2 minutes out in the game on the ice. It was here the whole time, like.
Oh gosh!
You're skating your hardest. You're doing your best. I got the competitiveness that I'm not gonna not try to play. Kept it down. Didn't puke, but
I'm sure it happened on occasion. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've been to tournaments where guys were they blow chunks all over the bench. Everyone slides over to squeeze it in his side of the bench. That guy's over there turning green.
And of course the smell's there for the next.
Oh yeah.
The next team that has to play the following.
Yeah, and they're getting on the bench and there's puke all over the place. So fun in beer league hockey and tournaments and stuff like that. But I forget where I was even going with all that.
Yeah, you went down a rabbit trail. We were talking about officiating. We got into beer leagues, but
beer leagues, yeah. Friends officiating.
But yeah,
pick it up, Dan, because I'm lost.
You talk about all those things, but to tie it back to the officiating stuff
Sure.
that we've been talking about the last 20 minutes, they're human too. A lot of these people, if you know any officials, most of these people are pretty nice.
Yeah, be nice to them.
I've gone out as a member of the media, with some coaches after games over the years, and a referee will join us. They're just there to make extra money. They have a love for whatever sport they officiate. There's a love there. They enjoy it.
Yeah.
And there are some referees out there, they'll do multiple sports. they'll get involved with 2 or 3 different sports. Like they're doing basketball in the winter, and they're a softball, umpire in the spring.
I believe my buddy also, he was doing wrestling and football for a while.
Yeah.
I think he just does football now. But once again, Drew, we'll get you on here. So, yeah, well, where else do we go from here?
It's that time of year, man.
What time of year? Well,
It's winding down.
winding down, the days are getting shorter,
Yes.
nights getting darker. Yeah, and then we wane into the Christmas month, and then it's just this cold darkness where most of us stay indoors a lot.
But we do have sports that entertain us.
True.
We have hockey, football going on right now, basketball. I prefer college hoops over NBA. It's just personal preference, but wrestling, high school and college wrestling has become a big deal in certain parts of the country.
Now,
There's a lot of sports out
Which
there.
ones do you typically cover as a because you've been doing some broadcasting and stuff too?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I do some broadcasting on the side for a soccer company. But as a writer,
Are we allowed to talk about that?
yeah,
Okay.
we're allowed to talk about those things. Yeah, I mean, I used to work full time in.
Don't wanna get you in trouble.
I used to be a full time newspaper journalist. Those don't really exist anymore, so I still freelance for some websites and some magazines out there around Michigan, and it's a love for the game too. I love nothing more. I love going and watching a very competitive game in a lot of different sports and finding a great story to write about, or in today's era, talk about on
Yeah.
TV shows and podcasts. I mean, that's a blast. I've had the pleasure of doing some color commentating and being an analyst for a couple of networks here in the last couple of years, where there's a lot of blast being in front of the microphone, in front of the camera, or sitting in a press box, play-by-play announcer to my right. And
That's where I was going. You brought me back to it. Thank you. Can I come back in with it?
yeah.
So my grand idea was to get guys like yourself to come out to a beer league hockey and do the commentating and get and record it. They have things called Live Barn. We could have an additional camera person there, and it's a camera that just follows the action. It's great. It's not great. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If we had we have 1 or 2 other camera people in the stands, we could cover it all. And I'd love to have like someone else, like let's get a hot chick to come in and interview guys like as they're coming off in between periods, or even like they do on the. I hate this in the NHL. They're on the bench and they're like, "Hey, coach, you're losing. What are you gonna do?"
Yeah,
it's like, we're gonna try to score more goals than the next team. Like,
or a coach is walking down the tunnel at halftime of a basketball game or between innings or whatever, and it's like, well, you know what? I'll talk to you after the game. I don't have time for this, but unfortunately, the way TV rights and contracts are set up now, the coaches sometimes don't have a choice. Like, this is how we're doing it in the day. So when a reporter stops you between quarters or halves, you have to conduct a 1-minute interview. It's part of your contract, and that's the way it is.
I even thought of that idea of doing a live broadcast and piping it into like just a local bar in the area, and maybe they got TVs on everything else, but they got the one TV, and it's like, what's that? It's like, oh, that's the local hockey rink right here, and that's a bunch of beer leaguers. The play is going to look like shit. It's going to look slow. But I guarantee it'd be fun. And if we had people mic'd up and you were able to hear the commentary with some of the people that are out there, it'll be awesome. Because I mean, we trash on each other, we trash on ourselves, and
that's just the nature of sports.
Oh yeah.
When you're doing it out of fun, you do sometimes get a crazy person who takes it way too seriously, and stuff gets out of control.
I was there at one point.
I've been men's rec league for soccer where a fight breaks out, like a multi-person brawl. It's like, I'm not losing teeth over this. I got to work tomorrow morning.
I've never started a brawl. Maybe I did, but
the truth serum's coming out. Huh?
A few more of these, and I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, you have a couple of these, and the truth bombs are doing their magic.
I've only been kicked out of one league.
Just one. Just one. There's a lot of other ones that he's a welcome participant. But
the beauty of Southeast Michigan, especially like when I was living downriver,
Lots of
I think there were
rinks.
30 rinks in a 30-mile radius. I could play hockey any time of day, anywhere, and join many leagues
that's-
as much as you could afford to.
That's something
play.
about, I think, that makes sports in Michigan so cool is there's facilities everywhere.
We have them all.
Well,
And we represent them all well.
You go to a hockey rink, and next door there's a soccer facility with full-fledged Olympic-sized soccer fields in there, and then upstairs they got batting cages and a baseball training center. These places are everywhere. I mean, they're industrial complex behind strip malls. They're all over the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
The only thing that seems to be decreasing is the number of bowling alleys. And I don't know, because bowling is still a very, very popular sport in certain sects in terms of.
It's a fun recreational thing.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
the most
I
part.
think it's fun to go out and bowl once or twice a year for fun. I've never been a bowler.
It's not all I do it.
I have a couple friends who are in leagues, and it is serious business to them, and that's what they choose to be competitive. That's their thing. That's great. I mean, so I have a lot of friends who play in golf leagues. I love golf. I don't mind going out. I don't want to play in. I don't want to go out of town for a weekend and play in 4 18-hole matches, but I don't mind going out and playing 9 or 18 holes.
So, is it the Tigers has a new commentator? Detroit Tigers?
Yeah, Jason Benetti came over, play-by-play. He's been with the White Sox.
Did you hear what he said about Detroit? He said some pretty impressive things, and I'm going to probably butcher what he said, but he said something about, Detroit gets kind of, more or less, we get shit on a lot for being Detroit. However, the fans, the sports, the loyalty we have, he said a lot of brilliant, amazing things. I really need to quote that guy, but that is, what he said was so cool and so nice and very spot on for what Detroit really is in the fan base here for all the sports. And we represent all the sports here. And
it is such a loyal, and I say that because the Lions, by and large, the last 50 years have not been good for the most part. But people are so loyal to the Lions. People remember the Red Wings last 4 or 5 years were down. Remember, like the late 70s, early 80s, the Red Wings were way down. Mm-hmm. But the fan base never goes away. It never deters. And that's the way it is with Detroit sports in general. The good times or the bad times, people are very tuned in to what's going on, because there are a lot of markets out there where attendance isn't all that great. I mean, you're starting to see a lot of like the Oakland Raiders in the NFL. They moved to Vegas. They're the Las Vegas Raiders, and every couple of years another franchise in different sports ends up moving to a different market, changing their nickname, their logo.
We've never had that.
And you look at the Red Wings, the Lions, the Tigers, Pistons. They've stayed rooted in the Detroit area for a long time. I mean, the Pistons used to be, I think, Fort Wayne, like 70 years ago. So, a long time ago. Before, and obviously Fort Wayne's a minor
market. And there were
market.
Auburn Hills and Lions.
But it stayed in the Detroit area.
But now it's all downtown Detroit, which is,
and people are very loyal to the
part of the rebuild of the city.
Right. People are still very loyal to the big colleges in Michigan.
Loyal to the soil, boys. Loyal to the soil.
I mean, Michigan State, even the smaller colleges, Western, Oakland, UAD. I mean, there are followings of the sports teams at these universities. Mm-hmm. And in other parts of the country, that's what they have.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, universities too.
You go to certain states, I think, like you go down to Alabama or Arkansas and up to the Dakotas, really aren't any professional level. There's minor leagues, minor league baseball, minor league soccer, minor league hockey, but there isn't professional franchises. I mean, but Detroit has been able to keep. They still don't have a Major League Soccer franchise yet, which is just such a melting pot of nationalities in Detroit. I can't believe that hasn't happened yet. But with the other four, they've been rooted here for so long that the loyal fan base is loyal to an extreme. I mean, it is. You couldn't ask for. It's one of the better sports markets in the entire.
Yeah, I think even when we're good, people. It's like nationwide like us. I can remember when the Tigers hit the World Series in '84. People all over the nation were praising the Tigers. I don't remember a lot of teams hating on us, when the Red Wings and the Pistons were good. Pistons, maybe, I don't know as much about them, but
They had that bad boy image back in the early
But
90s
yeah,
where they were
but people
kind of,
like that,
in
right?
a way they were kind of hated.
but it was like a love to hate kind of thing. But where the Red Wings were great, it was just like, well, what could you say? Even I remember the ESPN commentators who hated Detroit Red Wings were like, well, it's a Red Wings, so what can you say? It's like, because they're fucking good,
Well, it's the whole thing in baseball. In New York Yankees, you don't grow up as a Yankees fan. You grow up hating the Yankees.
Yeah.
People all over the country hate the Yankees, but you got to admire the fact that they've won 26 World Series titles in a franchise history, which in any sport, that's one of the biggest numbers.
Yeah.
It might be the biggest number in terms of world championships, in terms of sports that are anchored like the U.S. and Canada. I don't even know who would come across in second. There's got to be a couple double digits between hockey, baseball.
I would say
football,
Montreal, but I don't like Montreal.
And it's hard to win because, professional sports, when I was a little kid, I think there was like 21 NHL hockey teams. And now you have a lot of these leagues. There's 32 franchise. It's a lot harder to win.
Yeah.
Hockey at one time had the original 6 back in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Now what is there now? 28, 30 franchises?
It's over 30 now, yeah. I think 32, 34 now.
It's growing. It's grown exponentially over 40 decades.
What it does is it waters down the talent into each team, and it makes it exponentially harder to win a championship, which was amazing because the Red Wings were still doing that with like 30 to 32 teams, right? And that's when they had their dynasty. And it's even funny because a lot of sports networks won't even talk about the Detroit Red Wings as a dynasty. Chicago had a winning streak and a couple cups in a lesser amount of time in the same time frame, but they refer to that as a dynasty, Chicago Blackhawks. But the Red Wings had a much longer time and more cups, but not referred to as a dynasty.
Right.
So there's a little bit of where people like to try to goof on Detroit or try to put us down, but good people, loyal fan base. It's a lot of blue collar workers still.
Yeah.
Even the white collar workers they're usually just good people.
But you see those things like Detroit versus everybody.
Yeah.
That's just
because everyone's been goofing at us for so long.
That's a logo about just sports in general in the Detroit area or Michigan in general, where people
like
we're against the world.
People have been dunking on us for so long, and we can fight back. So here's to Detroit sports, man. It's a good city for it, So this has been fun, Dan. I'll have to have you back here when I get my buddy.
Yes, I need to get engaged more often.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have some more time here in the winter months.
I think the winter's gonna shut us down from doing more things externally, and we can get more of these in. And once I reach the 20th episode, I think I'm gonna see what I can do to expand, hit different platforms, and see where else we can go with this.
Right.
And
maybe take it out in location.
More location kind of stuff. Chadds Bistro was a good eye opener for me. I got a lot of great feedback from that. Thank you, Chad and company, and people that commented on it. And I got a lot of heartwarming kind of stuff for that. It made me feel so good. So many good compliments about what we're doing here. I can't thank those guys enough. So it was a great experience. Definitely want to come back there. Definitely want to have Chad here more often. He's a great guy, really interesting fellow. Like I said, he makes me think every time I talk to him. It's like
he challenges you about a lot of different.
Yeah, he does, because he's so well read on it, and it's tough to kind of even counter him sometimes because he's just so knowledgeable. Real sharp guy. So as soon as that bistro is open full time, we'll be hitting that.
Just stays away.
Yeah.
The main thing now is they're currently hiring staff.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, the most recent post.
They're interviewing people and talking to people. They're trying to fill in about 6 to 8 more people here.
Yeah, I've been trying to push that out to people I know that are kind of in the industry and want to work for a good person and a good company. So, I think that'll be probably our local hangout too, because it's going to be a more quiet format where we can sit there and talk. Won't be a lot of loud
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go watch a ball game, there's a lot of sports bars in there. If
Yeah,
you just
every other bar is like that.
Yeah, if you want to just sit and chill, it's going to be a unique place here in northern suburbs of Detroit. Chadds Bistro was really a walk-in sandwich deli type place. It's really
Often voted
one of the best in Michigan.
One of the best sandwich places in Michigan. Yeah, so
and you can argue I couldn't find 10 places better than his. His stuff was.
No, I
top of
often
the
equated
charts.
when the bistro was a small place, I often equated it to like something you'd run into in like a really cool college town,
Right.
like a downtown Ann Arbor. You just pop into a little place and you got this amazing menu and amazing food, and it's like some people are like, it's a little expensive. No, you are getting an amazing value for what you're eating,
Right.
and it's a huge amount of food, and it is so worth it. But we've done some samplings, and he's opening up. He's expanding the menu. I can't believe he's doing that. It's like, man, you need to consolidate that menu.
Right.
But he's got different plans, and he knows what he's doing. So I certainly enjoy the stuff. Even the pizza he served. I don't know. Did you get the chance to have the pizza when he made
No,
that?
I did not. I heard about it though.
I'm sampling this pizza, and I love the sauce. I'm like, this sauce is beautiful. What is this? And it's like, oh, we make this. We hand makes the sauce. I'm like,
They make their own bread. There are a lot of different sauces,
their
different stuff they
ketchup.
mix in
Yeah,
with food.
they hand make ketchup. I mean, who does that? But so, cheers to Chad, and we'll maybe see you at the bistro, and we'll say goodnight at the pub. We'll say, be good to your refs, and be good to your servers. Tip them well.
Yeah.
Here we go. Good night.
Until next time on Pud Wisdom, we'll see you on the flip side.